The United States healthcare system is broken. There is no doubt about that. Every time you visit the doctor, you have to pay very expensive pricing, and it affects your pocket. In this video, I will show you solid statistics on how the US compares to other countries in the world where they pay more taxes, very relevant for today's new administration coming. Ways to save more money on medical expenses and how to fix it now. Hey there, this is Jaime Shekaiban. Welcome to your personal finance, money, saving, and investing channel, The Foreigner in America, where I teach locals and foreigners everything that affects their pockets. America's healthcare system has always been a topic of interest for so many people. The reason why I'm making this video today is because in my last video, which you can check out below in the description, I left the healthcare section out of the equation. So I'm gonna talk about it today. And I will show you how America compares to the rest of the OECD countries, which is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. These are all developed countries that we can compare apples to.
But Jaime, I get killed every time I go to the doctor. It's never cheap.
Well, the United States is one of the countries that spends the most amount of money on healthcare, according to this chart over here. They spend an average of 17% of their total GDP of the year on healthcare. And just for you to know, the US has the biggest GDP in the world. So 17% is compared to $3 trillion on healthcare. Also, per capita or per person, the US spends the most amount of money than any other country in the world. That's $11,000 versus a $5,500 average for the rest of the members of the OECD. So it's important for you to understand that the US spends the most amount of money on healthcare. It's not just you, it's also the government that is spending a lot. The next piece of information that I want to show you that will make your jaw drop, just like Roger Rabbit or The Mask, is how the quality of our healthcare compares to the other countries, where they pay a lot more in taxes. But before I do that, make sure you hit the like button to help grow my channel. And you feel so good that you don't have to spend any more money on doctors this year. I will show you a lot of different graphs and statistics, but I want to make sure that I don't lose you in the way. So if you need to pause or rewind for a little bit, make sure you do, because each graph is very interesting. The healthcare quality in America is not the best in the world. Let me show you this chart over here, where we can see that our life expectancy is actually on the first quartile compared to a country like Japan, where it's solid. The infant mortality is actually one of the highest, where a country like Estonia is in the top places. We are halfway from treating an untreated asthma and far less for diabetes. Our childbirth safety is one of the lowest, but we rank high on heart mortality. I will show you more graphs that explains this situation a little bit during the video. Remember, although some cities in America have solid healthcare, this is comparing every single place, urban and rural America.
But Jaime, I never know how much they're charging me for healthcare every time I visit the doctor.
This is correct. According to this chart over here, it's only 39% of the time that you will know how much you're going to be charged when you visit a doctor, 23% for physical therapy, 17% for surgery, and 19% when you visit an emergency room. This is insane. But how does the quality of our healthcare compare to other members of the OECD? I will show you right now. For age-adjusted mortality rates of respiratory diseases per 100,000 population, 1980 to 2017, the US ranks lower than comparable countries. For pregnancy-related deaths on 100,000 births, numbers have gone up since 1987. For maternal mortality rate, has gone up since 2002 consistently, and it's way higher than comparable countries. 30-day in-hospital mortality rate for heart attack in the US, it's lower than the other countries. and also for blood clots, but for bleeds is actually higher. Treatable deaths per 100,000 population is higher in the US than comparable countries. The preventable deaths per 100,000 population in the US does poorly than comparable countries, and they have all gone up since 2012. The US had more avoidable deaths per 100,000 people than comparable countries. The healthcare quality and access rate, that's the HAQ, for 2016 was 93.7 average for the OECD versus 88.7 for the US. The hospital admission rate for 100,000 people for different conditions in the US for congestive heart failure, asthma, and diabetes is higher, but lower for hypertension. Excess deaths for 2020 for 100,000 people were higher in the US than comparable countries, and the overall age-adjusted mortality for 100,000 people is higher in the US than comparable countries. So what does this all translate at the end? You may ask, is life expectancy. Life expectancy in 2018, the US versus comparable countries, the average for the OECD is 82.4 years versus 78.7 years for America. The total life expectancy, and you can see it here from 1980 to 2018, the US has consistently been lower than comparable countries. And let me show you by gender. The life expectancy by gender in America is 81.2 for women versus 84.5 average. And for men is 76.2 years versus 80.1 average. And you might say, Jaime, is this consistent since 1980? Yes. You can see in this last chart here that I will show you, this chart is pretty self-explanatory. You can see America being with lower life expectancy than comparable countries since 1980 till 2018. So we can see our healthcare system is not the best in the world. Don't get me wrong, it is very solid still. And we have places like the Texas Medical Center, which is one of the best facilities in the world, which gives birth to a baby every 20 minutes and does one surgery every 3 minutes.
But Jaime, how do we save money on healthcare costs?
Well, this is the good part where I talk about money. I will give you recommendations on how to save money on your medical expenses, so stay with me. Number one, stay away from hospitals the most you can. I know having a hospital nearby is a great thing to have, and it's good for surgeries and treatments. But if you're just gonna go in for a checkup or a doctor visit, the hospital is not the place to go because they will jack up their prices since they have to pay for a lot of things. So the best thing you can do is just do it online through Zoom or video conferencing. That is the cheapest way you can do a doctor appointment. And right now with the pandemic, it's actually a lot more common. And number two, seek places with competition. The more specialized you go for a doctor or for a treatment, or the less competition you have. I mean, hospitals are businesses. They do supply and demand. So try to be in a place where what you're looking for has a lot of competition. Look for prices, search around, and you can save some money. Number three, use apps to compare pricing. I was using Cigna as my life insurance for a long time. So they have a really solid app that you can go in and check the prices for every single thing that you want to use. So never go to the doctor blindfold. Always the same way that you look for a car, the same way you look for a house, you compare pricing. You have to compare pricing for your medical services before you go and get them. And number four, which is the most important, put some money away in your HSA account. So if you're one of the lucky ones that have a medical plan, either with your job or independent, you can have two different types of plans. A PPO, a preferred provider, which is the best one and the most expensive, or a high deductible medical plan, which is the most common that we get today. If you have a PPO plan, you're not eligible for an HSA account. But if you have a high deductible medical plan, you are eligible to have an HSA, a health savings account. This is just a regular bank account, but you put pre-tax dollars into the account. And you have a limit of $35.50 for 2021. So why is this important? Well, if you know the maximum out-of-pocket amount for your insurance, and you put that amount in your HSA, you're covered for the rest of the year. If anything happens, let's say you need surgery and it's $50,000, hopefully not, you will have to pay your maximum out-of-pocket of $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000. If you have that amount in your HSA already, you use it, you pay it, and then the insurance will cover the rest of the year for you. And then starting January, it resets and you have to put the money back in again. That's the best way you can do for medical expenses.
But Jaime, how do you solve the problematic of healthcare in the first place?
Well, I read a lot online. Let me tell you the things that caught my attention on how to fix this problem. But in my opinion, we're gonna get free in-state college education a lot sooner than cheaper healthcare, but don't take that as a fact. They have to create a report that shows the prices for every single doctor, facility, and treatment in every single area, and not by insurance company, but divided by PPO, high deductible medical plan, and uninsured. They have to focus more dollars on preventive care. I mean, Americans get sick a lot, and I show you the charts. We have a lot of people getting into hospitals and getting treatments. We have to teach people to eat healthy, exercise, and start treating themselves when they're in their 30s and not when they're 60s and the damage is already done. And we have to lower pricing for the services. Unfortunately, America is one of the countries with the most expensive medical services in the world. That's why the government spends so much money. That's why you spend so much money and the insurance companies spend so much money. So we have to make this more affordable, and we have to force people to pay for their services, because there are millions of people that use hospitals, use doctors, and they just don't pay for anything. So that makes it more expensive for the other people that do pay for their services. Except for an emergency, of course, you should be charged upfront and not have the bill me later policy, which is complete crap. Now let me give you the foreigner insight for this video. So I came from Mexico 6 years ago and became a permanent resident of this great country. No matter how much negative information I've just shown you in all these charts and graphs, America's healthcare system is still pretty solid. The things that I find weird from back home is that you cannot get a price for things up front, that it takes months for you to get an appointment for a new patient with a new doctor, and that people make use of facilities and not pay. But I rarely visit the doctor, and I stay pretty healthy with a healthy lifestyle. Because I don't want to spend money on doctors, I prefer to get that money, save it, and invest it for the future. And so must you. But remember, if you have an insurance, look up your maximum out-of-pocket number and make sure you have that amount in your HSA or in any other savings account in case you're not eligible for an HSA. Because if something were to happen, you're completely covered for the rest of the year. And you continue doing this every single year, and you and your family will be covered for good. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, there's a lot of good information. Please give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any one of my weekly videos. Please check out my book on the link below. And until then, I'll see you next time.